Level 1. Bedroom App Fixer. You unlock the cracked Android phone beside your pillow before sunrise. On the login input box, you rebuild fields into alignment. You test against the borrowed iPhone beside unpaid envelopes. At the spinning booking button, you refresh for one hidden crash. You trace the memory leak on the terminal cursor past midnight. Beside the bug list, you mark the cold coffee ring. You film the taped webcam demo with one hand on the phone. Inside the cracked message bubble, you read, "Just buttons," from the shop owner. You press your forehead toward the keyboard against your hoodie cuffs. Inside the image compression panel, you compress oversized images into a stable splash screen. You trade power through the tangled USB cable under the desk. At the warped desk corner, you brace the laptop, phones, notebooks, and adapters. You redraw the navigation diagram around a working back button. Inside the outgoing email draft, you type a nervous greeting. You guard the whole business inside the scratched laptop case. In the darkroom, 6 glowing phones mirror one tiny app like a control center. You listen to the roommate's complaint at the half-open bedroom door. Beside the floor extension cord, you type from the floor. You repair the mid-login crash beside the router reset light. Through the upload progress bar, you submit the build. You flatten the bus card under the mouse as a mousepad. Inside the family group chat, you read the normal job question. You rewrite the crash handler file into a visible error message. Early at night, you open the rejection notice for performance and policy problems. You kick the plastic chair into an overturned block behind you. On the deleted animation frame, you replace heavy motion with a plain loading state. You retest the borrowed iPhone under the red battery icon. Across the rejection sticky cluster, you sort rules, fixes, and promises. You study the rejected app icon against the withheld installment. Under the bent lamp neck, you aim the laptop into a work tunnel. You patch the main button inside the patched button code. Beside the warm test phone, you reload the review inbox tab. You count wrinkled bills into $700 per month personal cash at month end. On the notebook page, you box Real Client beside prices and bugs. The frozen launch screen glows on a real phone before the main button crash. On the clean notebook page, you draw Paid Fixes Only. You rebuild the broken button from the repeatable fix checklist. Above the desk, you pin the handwritten pricing sign reading Paid Apps, Not Favors. Level 2. Marketplace Mobile Freelancer. You edit the first sentence into confidence inside the proposal field. Against the stairwell handrail, you steady the client call. You open the refurbished MacBook Pro between cafe receipt and pastry. Through the video call avatar, you absorb one more simple feature. You crush the napkin behind a camera smile under the table. Before dead Wi-Fi, you export screenshots into the required folder. You build the barber calendar grid against overlapping appointments. Inside the zipper phone case, you pack 2 used test phones. You whisper through the demo video under the library desk lamp. At the silver barber scissors, you enlarge the booking button. You trace the bad notification token log through 3 services. Across the co-working lobby, you step in with clean sneakers. You tap each build across the cafe tabletop phones. 3 client apps glow side by side with bookings, food orders, and buzzing fitness tracking. You show the monthly co-working pass from the Better backpack. Around the laminated menu, you mark the lunch rush demand. You answer with a firmer delivery date by the cafe sidewalk chalkboard. Inside the cart checkout screen, you rebuild around protected food extras. You send the milestone email thread with screenshots, bug notes, and payment reminder. On the laptop lid, you smooth the curling day pass sticker. You turn the pencil wireframe sketch into a clickable prototype. From the fitness coach, you open the red circled screenshot. You inspect the star rating panel like weather before new work. The overloaded co-working table holds 3 apps, 2 chats, and 1 screen share call. You deposit $4,500 per month freelancer gross for the stamped slip. Into the backpack, you pack chargers, phones, adapters, and a clean shirt. You face the trapped milestone at the color picker panel. Beside the glowing family invitation card, you keep rebuilding. You pin the phone under your elbow against the face-down invitation. Before dawn, you rebuild the feature branch into a simpler structure. You balance the laptop on the backpack under the rainy awning. Beside client screenshots, you scan the missed call stack. You send only the finished build beside the deleted voice note. Through the upload spinner badge, you push the revised build. You read the stressful delay claim inside the discount request chat. Inside the project terms, you write the change order clause. Into the padded laptop sleeve, you place the refurbished machine. You write Mobile MVP Specialist in the profile headline field. A polished demo reel shows 3 tiny apps opening cleanly across phones. Above the deleted cheap package, you publish the premium project page. Level 3. Startup Mobile Contractor. You steady the laptop bag against your knees at the rideshare door handle. Across the architecture whiteboard, you map the app during priority arguments. You catch startup sticky note reflections across the new MacBook Pro lid. Beside the espresso cup, you refuse late payments planning. You anchor payments near the front at the tapped flowchart box. Around failed card recovery, you build the subscription mockup. You sync the app to every device across the device shelf. On the apartment dining table, you center the external monitor. You hang the sharp jacket on the chair back. Against network stutter, you align the chat timestamp row. You take the phone with the dead animation at the stylus. Inside the sprint timer, you hold the stand-up pace. You separate city block pins around the map cluster marker. Inside the inbox, you file the rideshare receipt. You answer the real card payment question at the name badge. Before the rehearsal demand, you straighten the jacket cuff. You walk through the build on the mirrored phone display. At demo day, the projected payment screen towers over founders, investors, and designer. You watch the payment success checkmark catch the live gateway payment. Over the invoice folder, a startup accountant says $14,000 per month contractor gross. You place the real workstation at the window-facing desk. During kitchen rehearsal, you push the hotfix progress badge. You reproduce the backend failure at the empty API response. During the silent proof, you hold the grab test phone. You add the skeleton loading screen for server lag. Beside cold takeout, you update tickets over the taskboard column. You read the smartwatch alert during the investor call. About the funding wire, you read the delayed invoice email. You check the rent reminder notice beside the tax folder. Around the sprint room, phones update to the newest build together. You face rent, taxes, and launched work at the unpaid invoice stack. Inside the pause ticket column, you mark every new ticket. You reject exposure as payment at the unpaid contract. Into a usable delivery, you package the handoff zip folder. With deliverables, bugs, and pause scope, you send the final status email. You stack the grocery receipt and rent envelope beside the tax estimate sheet. Across the deposit before code page, you write deposit before code. You build the renewal fallback screen for subscription failures. Through the speakerphone glow, you absorb the company versus contractor accusation. You replace the folding chair with the ergonomic chair after the deposit clears. Above the device shelf, you pin the printed contract template. You improve the onboarding progress dots toward the paid screen. At demo night, triple demo screens run 3 startups apps at once. You hold the pitch deck after the word team lands hard. On the hire first notebook page, you write 2 names. On the overfilled device shelf, you study the crowded charging strip. You build repeatable work from the launch checklist template. Into designer, junior developer, and QA work, you sort the delegation grid. You order unopened keyboard boxes for future hands before hiring. With space for more keyboards than one, you sign the tiny office lease. Level 4. Micro Studio Founder. You press the crooked logo sticker into place at the glass door. Before the team arrives, you wake the charging phone row. You leave the apartment folding table chaos behind between dual workstations. Against the risky onboarding shortcut, you mark the designer mood board. You separate outside work from studio work on the outsource boundary chart. Beside pizza boxes, you review the Q&A test sheet. You label the device drawer by platform and screen size. At the whiteboard wall, you answer the discovery cost challenge. You sell the workshop with the uncapped marker in your hand. Into user story cards, you break the vague app idea. You drive client samples with the clean sedan key. In the branded office door, you frame the parked sedan beside the logo. You place the reception chair near the server box and invoices. On the older Android handset, you reproduce the blocked crash. You clap once beside the rolling chair wheel. On the library version note, you assign the crash. You review screens through the Figma comment pin. The launch war room table fills with 5 people, 10 devices, pizza, dashboards, and a pacing client. You cut the competitor app screenshot into post-launch scope. On the phased scope board, you protect the client relationship. The bank manager stamps the deposit record. $38,000 per month, studio gross, real business income. Beside the half-broken stapler, you set printed business cards. You answer the payroll fear at the payroll reminder envelope. With a clearing promise, you face the team payroll clipboard. You run the morning check-in inside the cramped stand-up circle. In plain language, you write the acceptance checklist. You mark delivery dates on the 3-color wall calendar. Before queue a week, you pick up the abandoned access card. You erase the missing junior's name into a whiteboard streak. Through the client speaker icon, you answer the launch question. You lock the permission settings panel around repository access. Near the empty chair shadow, you test late. At night, the tiny office glows with each desk running a different rescue build. Across weak clauses, you read the lawyer's red pen. You read the rush QA surcharge at the vendor rate sheet. At the lockable cabinet, you assign one person per critical phone. From the studio process binder, you form rules for hiring, review, and clients. You place the approval sticker across every device. For client devices and contracts, you buy the lockable cabinet. Every phone in the room goes live during the rescued launch. At the legal margin notes, you accept the warning against handshake agreements. You carry the loose contract stack into the meeting room. On the hiring rule sheet, you rewrite contact, access, and side work rules. You hang the office hours sign beneath the glass door logo. Across the conference table, you slide the master services agreement before kickoff. Level 5. Boutique Mobile Agency. You guide the first client to the sign-in tablet under the logo wall. Inside the real office suite, you hang the tailored jacket. You receive the early launch demand at the marketing director folder. Into marked risk, you turn the phased roadmap printout. You align the company iPad row beside loaner phones. Around sprintboard magnets, you move QA failures from column to column. You hear the greedy scope complaint beside the developer lanyard. At the conference room doorstop, you defend scope for payroll. You rewrite the acceptance criteria card as billable work. Outside the lunch spot, you park the leased SUV with agency samples. You watch polished demos across the mounted lobby screens for waiting clients. On the cross-platform QA grid, you review failures. You answer the finance challenge at the lunch invoice folder. On the payment flow diagram, you price the safe rebuild. The design review room fills with wall-sized mock-ups, brand boards, and checkout arguments. On the morning sheet, you stack recruiting, triage, updates, and approvals. You place the branded water bottle in the waiting area. With the low-end test phone, you accept the release block. You let the bug decide launch at the countdown timer. For safer release, you approve the fallback checkout screen. The bookkeeper confirms $120,000 per month agency gross over the check bundle. For App Store Connect, you sign the release asset checklist. You hear the launch refusal through the speakerphone puck. At the release table edge, you grip for the final launch call. Release night swells across the wall screen with 15 people, 25 devices, dashboards, consoles, and countdown. Against payment logs, you compare the crash trend chart. You stack the lunchbox pile under the review table. The launch campaign screen wall fills with billboards, email blasts, social feeds, and spiking installs. You open the one-star review page after the public payment bug. With the dropped release lanyard on the table, you order rollback. You read the personal answer demand inside the public complaint thread. Beyond display noise, you trace the payment error. You watch the support inbox stream during live installs. On the legal call transcript, you read the damage question. You coordinate the hotfix command sheet across support, refunds, and release work. Under empty reception lights, you work through dawn. You place the incident report cover where celebration cake was planned. For professional dashboards, you approve the monitoring tool invoice. The crisis screen wall shows users, crashes, refunds, and release status across the suite. Before liability coverage, you study the insurance brochure. You pin the failed review above the sprint board for post-mortem. For payments, security, rollback, and support, you create the mandatory release gate. You tape the note reading, "Trust First," inside the empty trophy shelf. You score every new project on the risk scoring sheet. Inside the locked testing room, you expand the QA corner with payment devices. You sign the security lead offer before the next enterprise meeting. Level 6. Enterprise Mobile Partner. You wait through the temporary visitor badge check at reception. Across the airport lounge floor, you roll the premium carry-on. You set the hotel keycard beside the workshop deck in the business hotel. Onto the workflow map, you translate field worker chaos. You close the locked device cabinet inside the security review room. At the procurement term sheet, you price the warranty risk. You return the signing pen across the table. Across the time zone call grid, you lead the remote team. You explain role-based access through the nurse tablet mock-up. Around the enterprise boardroom table, 20 stakeholders watch the field worker system map. You point across the larger office floor toward glass team pods. At the compliance binder, you answer the circled data field. You split the data handling matrix into encryption, retention, logs, and access levels. Across controlled build lanes, you update the enterprise timeline board. You take the procurement call under the lounge glass ceiling. Without discounting trust, you face the vendor scorecard. You offer removed scope at the buttoned jacket front. After the deployment review, you sign the DevOps offer letter. You mark client, environment, and data risk on the sensitivity label strip. Beside procurement notes, you leave the breakfast plate untouched. You mark the indemnity clause page over payment data risk. With the logging diagram, you keep executives out of jargon. The campus atrium screen shows the app prototype above the badge gates. Toward the boardroom before dawn, you fold the boarding pass corner. The CFO says $450,000 per month, company revenue over the revenue folder. At the auditor evidence checklist, you watch approval stop. You face the stalled six-figure rollout at the blocked contract folder. For proof, you open the evidence room keycard. You show encrypted storage on the test device with the security lead. Over the access record packet, you pull logs with legal on mute. You face the live proof demand at the CTO conference badge. For a restricted user, you run the denied access screen. Across the roaring depot, field workers scan packages through enterprise app traffic. You point to the next evidence item in the auditor nod reflection. On the retail rollout map, you mark staged deployment pressure. You design the staged deployment chart for wave updates. Beyond the badge-only elevator, you enter the poster-lined hallway. You triage the overnight QA report with the morning team. To the security review room panel, you add biometric storage. A hospital corridor fills with nurses testing tablets under compliance watch. You sort the campus badge tray near the carry-on. At the architecture review tablet, you answer peak traffic doubts. You sketch the coffee cup server model across regions. The command center office floor runs through QA, DevOps, security, and project leads behind glass. You face the hiring forever question at the board member tablet. As a licensed analytics product, you sketch the SDK page. You record the product voice memo by the airplane window shade. From service to product, you swap the executive wall card. You pin the product roadmap card beside service projects. For support, SDK access, and reporting, you draft the analytics pricing tiers. You greenlight the product brief for the first owned mobile analytics tool. Level 7. Global Mobile Product Empire. A black car glides past branded shuttles toward the glass headquarters facade. Through the headquarters reception wall, you cross into studio floor, command center, and product lab. You hear overnight incidents from different countries on the monitoring floor walkway. At the CIO visitor pass, you face the rollout priority challenge. You move cards on the portfolio priority board between enterprise and product releases. Inside the passport sleeve, you tuck the business class boarding pass. Rows of QA racks glow with hundreds of multilingual phones in the device farm. Through the customer success headset, you hear the regional support warning. You call the regional lead forward on the regional stage feed. At the SaaS demo kiosk, you choose between product updates and enterprise delivery. You use the premium hotel desk lamp over a temporary command post. Above the corporate campus, you negotiate the SDK licensing folder. You review healthcare, logistics, finance, retail, and consumer icons across the launched app gallery. Against the partner founder's fear, you weigh the acquisition term folder. You preserve the studio name at the opened boardroom blinds. Satellite office clock walls frame engineers testing releases across regions. You handle legal and support calls across the airport lounge walkway. With the founder, you review the acquired studio floor plan. You host the acquisition celebration at the rooftop banner. Beside the senior engineer laptop sticker, you hear the analytics warning. You kill custom requests poisoning the core product at the product lab glass. Around the retainer close bell, you oversee retainer closes and onboarding rooms. You turn the reusable feature card into SDK licensing value. At the revolving door outside HQ, you pass the branded shuttle. Drone-wide HQ view reveals shuttles, glass floors, and glowing QA labs beyond one frame. At the board advisor notebook, you face the recurring revenue push. The group CFO toasts $3,500,000 per month group revenue over the engraved menu. Inside the customer success room, you track renewals on the world map. You pair local support with a stronger product team on the regional support map. Around the company logo, you approve the summit stage lights before employees enter. You receive the platform policy notice against client apps and owned products. From the policy dashboard, you launch emergency updates across client and owned apps. You turn back toward the command center on the corridor floor stripe. Into client, product, legal, and review lanes, you split the crisis workstream board. You pull regional leads into the command center across the global call ring. On the licensing exhibit floor, you separate SaaS, SDKs, retainers, and acquired studios. You inspect the product lab bench of foldables, tablets, watches, scanners, and rugged devices. At the penalty clause folder, you read the deadline penalties. You assign the strongest team from the deadline clock. Without slowing enterprise support, you validate compliant build racks. The Night Command Center moves updates across countries, offices, and client fleets. Above the engineering floor, you count the balcony coffee row. You answer the permission question inside the platform reviewer window. Around control and compliance, you reframe the permission rationale sheet. You track regional approvals on the clearance board. At the Summit metric wall, you stand before rising live app metrics. You defend retainer pricing at the procurement panel table. On the stripped service slide, you remove non-critical services from the offer. Into product access tiers, you turn the uptime guarantee chart. You ride between campus, airport, and HQ from the black car rear seat. Across the operating HQ atrium, you watch the company run beyond your hands. Sales, engineers, and product dashboards climb together inside the multi-team command room. At the founder's old studio badge, you answer the soul question. You introduce the founder to the floor with the pocketed studio badge. Into acquisitions, SDKs, retainers, and owned apps, you turn the operating rhythm map. You hang the framed, cracked phone photo from the bedroom in the quiet hallway. Across the command center entrance, you walk the launched app gallery beyond one hallway. Hundreds of glowing devices, engineers, dashboards, shuttles, sales teams, labs, and live apps fill the Empire drone shot.